welcome back. Happy President's Day. Probably thinking, what president are you going to vote for? Well, some of you may not. Some of you might just be wondering what the priorities of a presidential candidate may have. And that's what we're talking about pretty in detail today, is understanding your priorities and figuring out how to, take a day off and take advantage of some of the time you have to make some of those priorities a reality. John Hugg joins us, who specializes in estate planning and is a frequent speaker on these issues and host of informational seminars throughout the Seattle area. Welcome, John.
Thank you, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, happy President's Day.
Happy President's Day to you.
Yeah. Okay, so estate planning. It's easy to prioritize when you're alive, a little bit more difficult once you're gone.
Almost impossible when you're gone.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
You can get a shaman or a gypsy. And anyways, that's a whole other topic.
Certainly easier when you're alive.
Yeah, certainly. So talk a little bit about this estate planning and what it means, because similar to, I think, with financial planning, I think a lot of people think, well, this isn't something I need, but it's not just about the money.
Correct. Yeah, you're right. There is a large misconception that that you need a large estate, or you have to have a lot of stuff in order to be able to, pass an estate along. But you really don't. I mean, even if you just have, if you have a small estate, or if you just have your house, if that's all you've got, you can still use an estate plan. If that's,
And you were even talking about, when it's, your house or families with kids, all these different aspects of your life. I think the word estate can be misconstrued with, your actual estate, like the estate sale and the big house on the hill with the, gates.
Correct. Yeah. A lot of, I think, what you want to do with any estate plan is you're thinking about how to take care of your family going forward after you're gone. If you've got kids, you almost certainly need to have an estate plan. Even if you don't have kids and you're married, you still should probably think about having an estate plan. And what do I mean by an estate plan? I mean a will, and then usually powers of attorney and a healthcare directive in a lot of circumstances. So with the will, what does that do? That basically, it's going to pass your assets to whomever you desire your assets to go to. For a lot of people, it'll just be the surviving spouse, and then to your kids. Once both of you and your spouse have passed away. If you're single and you have kids, then most of the time you want everything to go to your kids. Sometimes you don't want it to go equally to your kids, or sometimes there are circumstances where you want things to go in trust to protect your kids from bad decisions that they may make, especially if you've got minor children. You may want to put something in trust to make sure that the money's going to be there, while they grow up and through their, into adulthood. And
you talked about, we were joking before you came on about, hey, and if one kid isn't acting right, it could always change that will.
That's right.
I think that's always a joke. I'll take you out of the will, right?
Oh yeah, but it is a true subtle threat. At all times.
Does it happen?
Absolutely.
Like
it's like, well, yeah, I don't like the way this kid is acting or behaving.
It's like the final grounded, So you are fine. This is your final grounding. I'm out.
Right. It does happen. A lot of times, though, I do try to convince people not to just cut out their kids. Because again, if you're looking about it from the full perspective, not just of what happens with your money, but then what's the effect on your family. If you cut out one child, or if you give more to another child than one of the others, then you're going to leave.
Sally doesn't like John, or vice versa, so much anymore.
Right.
Or they're knocking at the door with their hand out.
Right. They're going to be more likely to fight and have problems going forward.
You talked a little bit about the basics and some of these. You put these seminars you do at Evergreen Hospital and around the city. You talk about just making sure all your affairs are in order.
Correct.
What does that mean? What are people's affairs?
For most people, their affairs are basically having a will. It may be having a trust if that's what their requirement, their plan requires. Certainly having powers of attorney. The power of attorney is quite important, maybe more important than it was, say, 20 years ago, because we're looking at an aging population, and you've got more of an issue with regard to disability, with regard to being able to take care of your affairs as you go forward. And that's what the power of attorney is for. So having the will, having a power of attorney, and then having a healthcare directive, otherwise known as a living will, that is going to basically, well, not to be too
pull the plug or not.
Yeah, pull the plug, basically.
I'll say it for you.
There
You're
you go.
okay.
Thanks.
And so when you have these affairs, these documents in order, I guess you really have to start doing a little bit of soul searching. I mean, it's not just, hey, I'm going to go in and do this. Again, this is kind of prioritizing what's important to you in life for when you either are incapacitated or dead.
Correct. Yeah. I guess there's a lot of things that go into it. I mean, a lot of things that people don't think about. Who do you want to have acting on your behalf? And who do you trust? Particularly if you're going to set up a trust for your kids or for a spouse or whatever. Who do you trust to actually look at that money and take care of it and dole that money out? Who do you trust to act on your behalf under the power of attorney, to make medical decisions for you if you can't? So there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of things that people I don't think necessarily think about on the front end. And another good reason why you should see an attorney with regard to that, as opposed to maybe going online for your legal needs. So
that attorney's job, or a good one, is to ask the right questions too.
Correct. Absolutely.
I mean, who do you really want this? This is an important decision.
Absolutely.
This is not click and print type stuff.
Right. And it shouldn't be, although a lot of people do that. I mean, to save money, you go online, you do something, and maybe you're getting something that's going to work, and maybe you're not. But the lawyer's job is to ask all the appropriate questions, find out what suits your needs, as we've talked about that earlier. What is right for you. If you're trying to do it yourself, you probably won't know if it is right for you. But if you're going to an attorney and they're helping you out with that, then they should be able to guide you in the right direction, get the correct language in there, the correct documents to do and accomplish what you want to do, both during and after life.
John, we have a couple minutes left. Again, we're here with John Hugg of Hugg & Associates Estate Planning. What are some of those questions an attorney, let's say somebody's out there and they're thinking, this is a good idea. I want to know who's going to pull the plug or choose not to. Mm-hmm. What are some of those questions that an attorney should ask to help them make that decision?
Well, probably the
and not just the plug question. I suppose we can talk about it all. I'm morbid today. Dead presidents.
Dead presidents. There you go. Well, I suppose usually the spouse is the first person, the default person that you think of initially. But after that, then the decisions become a lot more difficult. And usually it's an issue of adult children. Some children, and this is very common with my clientele, some children, my clients have a pretty good sense that they'll have an easier time making healthcare decisions, particularly pulling the plug. Whereas another child, they will just not be able to do that. They won't be able to let go. They won't be able to make that tough decision. However, they may be great with money, so that may be the child that should be handling the financial affairs under the power of attorney, and maybe acting as the executor. So some difficult things to think about.
Well, John, I'd certainly rather be the kid getting the money than having to make the pull the plug decision. I don't know if my folks are out there listening. Put me on the other side of the list.
Yeah. There you go. Have them do that.
But as you said, I mean, it takes more than just. It takes some thought. I mean, it takes some preparation to do it right.
Right. And most of my clients that come in, a lot of times they sit down and they're just like, I never really realized how much there was to it. I never really realized what we had to think about. And again, every situation is unique, and that also makes it a bit of a challenge as well. If you're single and you're living with somebody, then you should probably have a will if you want that person to get some of your stuff, because it won't happen otherwise. So depending on the circumstances, you'll need to give it some thought, give some serious thought to what you want to do and how you want to do it. So,
well, John, thanks so much for joining us again, John Hugg. When we come back, our whole first hour panel is going to join us. We're going to discuss a little bit about what people should be looking for in a professional, more even in this current economy. And again, I really like what John said, that do it right maybe versus do it yourself. My name is Ben Brashen. You're listening to Brashenomics.